Hello and welcome to lesson 6 of how to play the saxophone for complete beginners. Today's lesson marks the halfway point in the beginner's course, and to celebrate I'm going to give you a lot of work to do. So here's your extended warm-up. First, go right back to the beginning and blow long notes just through your mouthpiece and neck until you get a nice even sound. This is also a chance for you to practice your breathing. You need to get that right too, and we're going to talk about where to breathe when you're playing a piece of music a bit later. Now look at the following music. Exercise 1 is your G major scale, which you learnt in lesson 5. I hope you've been practicing it, as you're going to need to know it off by heart so that you can do exercise 2, along with exercise 3, your pentatonic scale, which you also learnt in lesson 5. So get exercises 1 and 3 right first. Now let's look at exercise 2. This is a melodic pattern in thirds. Now what does that mean? Well, in music, the distance between notes are called intervals. And when you count in intervals, the note you start on counts as number 1. So the distance or interval between the notes G and B is called a third. The distance or interval between the notes A and C is also called a third, and so on. Now your task is to learn how to play exercise 2 off by heart, and for this reason I have not added the letter names or solfa names, so it's also a reading practice. But I will let you know what they're supposed to sound like, and I have a treat for you. You're going to have a backing track to practice over. So this is what everything sounds like over the backing track. And now it's your turn. Make sure that you can play the scales and patterns first and start slowly and build up faster gradually. And then when you're ready, you can try and play along with the backing track. Learn a new song. Here's a new song for you to learn. Nkosi Sikelele Africa, which is a traditional South African song and part of their current national anthem. This is the sheet music and it doesn't have any of the letter names or solfa written on them. So this is for you to practice reading the notes. And the only notes you're going to have are G, A, B, C and F sharp. Those are the only notes throughout the whole song. However, I'm going to show you how to play it if you want to learn it off by heart and you want to see the solfa, and I'll do it for both alto and tenor in the next sections. For alto, 1, 2, 3, 4. For tenor, 1, 2, 3, 4. Play along time. Now it's time for you to play along with a backing track if you want to. Make sure you know how to play the song first and then try and play it with the backing track. It's quite slow, so you'll be able to cope hopefully. You hear the alto version, then the tenor. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. One and 2 and 3 and 4 and. How to play the note C sharp. This is how you play the note C sharp. Now it's a bit of a balancing act to play this. Basically, you're not putting your fingers on any keys at all. So down here, with your right hand, your thumb is by the thumb rest as usual, but there are no fingers on there. And here, with your left hand, your thumb is on the thumb rest as usual, but there are no fingers here. So what do? You simply keep your thumb on the thumb rest here, your thumb on your right hand by the thumb hook, and that's it. All fingers off. Now you keep them above the notes or the keys for when you need to play them, but that is essentially how you play C sharp. And on an alto sax it sounds like this. And on a tenor it sounds like this. Now you're going to learn the sequence of notes. It's the first 5 notes of the A major scale, going up or ascending and then coming down. A, B, C sharp, D, E, D, C sharp, B, A. Practice it first without blowing to make sure that you're comfortable moving between the notes. This is what the sequence should sound like on an alto saxophone. And on a tenor saxophone. Keys and sharp signs. Now you must be wondering why I've posted a picture of cake tins. Now just bear with me on this one. Imagine that you've got a recipe for a cake and you bake the cake and it tastes great, but then you bake it again, but you have to fit it in a different sized cake tin. You might have to adjust the recipe a bit so that it works. If you put it in a different size cake tin without adjusting the recipe, sometimes the cake will overcook or it won't cook enough. You might have to adjust the oven temperature. It's the same cake, but it's just slightly different. Or it's in a different size, but you still recognise it as the same cake. Well, it's similar in music. Imagine that you play a song using one set of notes, and then you play the same song but using a different set of notes. It's the same song and you recognise it as the same song, but you may be using notes that sound in a higher pitch or a lower pitch. That's what we mean by playing in different keys. Listen to the following melody. It will be played 4 times, and each time it will be played using a different set of notes. They will be played on an alto saxophone. C major. G major. D major. A major. Now look at the beginning of each stave. For your melodic pattern in C major, you won't see any sharp signs because in the key of C there are no sharp notes. If you look at the beginning of the second stave, you'll see 1 sharp sign. What that tells you is that whenever you see an F, it will be an F sharp. And you only have 1 sharp in the key of G major, and that's F sharp. If you look at the beginning of the third stave, you will see 2 sharp signs, because in the key or the scale of D major, Wherever you see a C or an F, it will be a C sharp and an F sharp. And look at the beginning of the fourth stave. You will see 3 sharp signs because in the key of A major, there are 3 sharp notes: F sharp, C sharp and G sharp. You haven't learnt G sharp yet, so don't worry about that. You won't need it for the next exercise. Now this next task are for the students that want to practice their reading and learn some music theory. So you have 2 songs here, Au clair de la lune and Peas Pudding Hot. Both are in the key of G major. They both start and end on the note G. See if you can play them. Then what I want you to do is try and play the same tunes again, but start on the note D and end on the note D, using the notes in the D major scale. And then after that, you can try and play the same songs again, starting on the note A and ending on the note A, using the notes of the A major scale. And they should all sound the same, but just in different pitches. Now if you can't do it, don't worry. We'll go over it in another lesson. So pause the video and see how you get on. I hope you enjoyed that lesson. I hope you learnt a lot from it. Keep practicing and I'll see you in the next lesson. Until then, bye bye.